Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. In today's video, I'm going to be listing 5 things that you absolutely should not say to someone with Tourette syndrome for a few key reasons. But before we get into that, let me just back it up. My name is Carly, I am 24 years old, and I have Tourette syndrome. I was clinically diagnosed at the age of 12 by my psychiatrist, and since then I have progressively developed more and more tics. It's been a really big struggle to deal with Tourette syndrome, and it's not fun and games. It really is a disability. For those of you that do not know what Tourette syndrome is, Tourette's is a neurological disorder, which means it differs from mental illness in the way that my neurons in my brain are directly impacted by misfiring signals causing me to do involuntary movements and sounds called tics. So these weird things that I'm doing throughout this video are tics and I can't control them. And that's just a part of my life. That's Tourette's for ya. I got rice. So if you guys want to stay tuned to educational content about Tourette syndrome, please subscribe to this channel and ring the notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content. I post about Tourette syndrome awareness as well as neurodiversity and just stuff that really gets awareness out there. My goal is to break the stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome because there is still such a negative stigma around it. A lot of people really don't know the truth about it, and I wanted to debunk some myths and break the stigma on this channel. Hi! So with all that being said, let's get into the 5 things you shouldn't say to someone with Tourette's. Hi! So one thing you should absolutely not say to someone with Tourette syndrome is, why aren't you swearing? Or like, hey, you get a free pass to swear. Because that is really, really not true. And here's why. Tourette syndrome does cause involuntary vocalizations. These are vocal tics. I got rice. And there actually is a subcategory for the swearing tic. This actually has its own name called Coprolalia, which means the involuntary utterances of swear words, obscenities, gross things, socially taboo things that are coming out of our mouth that are involuntary. That's the key word. They're involuntary. Hi! We don't mean to be saying these things. And the most important thing to note is that coprolalia actually only affects 10 to 15% of people who deal with Tourette syndrome. So, in all of the people with Tourette syndrome in the world, a very small number of us actually deal with coprolalia, or the swearing tic. Hi! So when you mention, like, why don't you swear? Sometimes people with Tourette's don't swear, and that's just part of the media and the stigma that Hollywood has presented on Tourette syndrome. A lot of movies will feature someone with Tourette's where all they do is shout obscenities and blurt swear words and make it all fun and games. But in reality, these things we say, are completely involuntary. So I don't suffer with coprolalia very much. The odd time I will have a one-off coprolalia tic where I'll say a bad word that I'm like, oh my gosh, what? But I have a lot of other vocal tics that are random. You may hear me say, I got rice. And that is an involuntary vocalization, which is just the same as a swear word in the way that we can't control it. We're not thinking it. I don't have rice. So someone who says like F off or something as a tic is not telling you to directly F off. They're just vocalizing something because we get this urge in our body where we have to say these things. So asking someone with Tourette syndrome, why don't you swear? It's mildly offensive and it can actually be triggering. The more you know, just people with Tourette syndrome, not all of us do swear. It is a very, very minor portion of us who do have coprolalia. The second thing you should absolutely never say to someone with Tourette syndrome is just stop ticking. As I've said, tics are completely involuntary and for the most part uncontrollable. They're really hard to hold in, and when someone says just stop, it's really, really rude and offensive because, like, imagine someone came up to you and said, hey, just stop breathing. That would be really bad. People need to breathe to live. And I know tics aren't at the same extreme as that, but if I don't tic, I will get very uncomfortable to the point where I will panic and I will get non-functional almost. So tics to us are as natural as breathing or as blinking. Things that everyone does every single day without really putting thought into it. That's the same as a tic for me. And so if someone said, hey, stop blinking for 20 minutes, or hey, just take a break from breathing, it kind of gives the same vibe because tics are involuntary. And for me, they happen when I don't think about them. They just happen. And it's a response that my body just has to do. Another reason why you should never tell someone to just stop ticking is suppression is hard. And I actually have a whole video on me suppressing my tics and trying to hold them in for as long as I can. If you want to watch that, I'll link it up there. But suppression is hard, and if we are to hold in our tics for longer periods, a lot of the time we'll have tic attacks after. So it just is a really awful thing all the way around to encourage suppression and to tell us to stop ticking, because it's just not nice. Think of it as the analogy, as I said, just stop blinking or just stop breathing. It's uncomfortable. You're gonna get uncomfortable if you stop doing something that's natural to your body. So yeah, the next thing, number 3 that you should never say to someone with Tourette syndrome is, oh my gosh, I've never seen you tic. Like, are you sure you have Tourette's? Are you sure you're not faking? Like, is it all in your head? Fake claiming someone is so harmful, and a lot of people with Tourette syndrome do have very, very mild cases, to the point where our tics are so subtle that a lot of us tic and you wouldn't even know we're ticking. There have been a lot of people with Tourette syndrome that have come out online and have said, hey, you know what? I suppress, I mask, I hide my tics all the time, and my friends don't even know I have Tourette's. And guess what? That's valid. I've been through something very similar, where I've hid my tics. All of my junior high and high school years, I hid my tics from most of my friends, except my really close ones, because I didn't want to face judgment or ridicule. And so, as soon as I actually came out this past 2 Decembers ago, saying on my Facebook page, hey guys, I have Tourette's, to all of my Facebook friends and family, people took it really well. But if someone were to say, I've never seen her tic, she's probably faking for clout, that's harmful. Because a lot of the time I do hold in my tics or I redirect them in public, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, where we're at work or we're at school and we're just doing subtle things like tensing our stomach, tensing our butt, our leg muscles, our toes are wiggling. A lot of the time I judge my scenario where I see, oh, I know someone's not looking at me, the teacher's talking, or my boss is doing something, so I can do tics where people aren't looking. And it's a very judgment-based thing where I am sneaky at hiding my tics. And so just know that if someone says, hey, I have Tourette's, and you've never seen them tic, don't be quick to assume that they're faking or that they're lying, because a lot of us are so ashamed of our disorder that we hide. And that's something that sucks. So to be fake claimed, when someone tells you, hey, I have Tourette syndrome, and you've never seen them tic, just be nice and like accept them and say, you know what can I do for you? Like, do you want to talk about it? Just make them feel comfortable and know that if you don't see your friends tic all the time, it could be because they're suppressing and they're ashamed. So don't be quick to jump to conclusions. With that being said, you also shouldn't ask someone, why aren't you ticking? And here's why. When I think about my tics or when I mention my tics to myself, I will tic more. Because talking about tics or thinking about tics in itself is a trigger for more tics. I got rice. The communists are coming. And so when I think about tics, automatically I'm ticking more. So a lot of the time I try my best to distract myself with something I love, like music or art or editing or fun things like that, where I can be a few minutes in the zone without ticking. But if someone asks, hey, why aren't you ticking? It may seem like a completely innocent thing to do and be like, you know what, I just want to check in on my friends, see if they're okay. And it comes from a place of genuine concern and like understanding. But asking us, hey, why aren't you ticking when we're not ticking is a massive trigger for us to tick even more. And as I said, it does seem like you're genuinely caring and being nice, but it's better not to point out tics and not to mention them, because as soon as you point them out, we have more tics. And that's just a little like weird thing about Tourette syndrome, is thinking about our tics is a trigger for more tics. So as soon as someone points out our tics or mentions, why aren't you ticking? We're gonna tick more. Ugh. And it's just really hard to deal with. So, I mean, if you're our friend and you're genuinely asking, like, it depends on the person, but if you're someone I barely know and are like, hey, why aren't you ticking today? You just shouldn't say it, because I'm gonna start ticking more and get annoyed at you. And I don't mean to be rude, it's just that's how it is. Hi. I got rice. Ugh. And the 5th point you should not say to someone with Tourette syndrome ever is, oh my gosh, I wish I had Tourette's. It looks like so much fun. It's so cute and quirky. Like, you're so lucky. Or just like, OMG, I wish I had Tourette's for insert reason here. Because let me tell you, you do not want Tourette syndrome. I know a lot of influencers online post the comedic stuff and the funny stuff and the lighthearted stuff. And that's okay. But a lot of us don't post the negatives, and that's something that I want to change because Tourette's comes with so many negatives. It's hard to live with. So when someone says, oh, I want it, I could swear repeatedly without getting in trouble, or like, it makes me cute and quirky to tick. Ugh, that just bugs me beyond measure. Tics for me, my motor tics are physically painful. It doesn't feel good when I'm punching myself or beating myself up or kicking my feet together to the point where my ankles bleed because of a tic. Like, that doesn't feel good. And honestly, I got rice. Hi! I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I genuinely would not wish it on anyone because it is so hard. It feels like you're constantly in a battle with your own mind and your body. I always say that it's like I have an evil puppeteer controlling me as the marionette who's yanking my strings all over, and I'm just controlled by this puppeteer who has no sympathy for me. So even though some people online with Tourette's make it seem like it can be fun and like, oh, you can swear, haha, or oh my gosh, it's quirky and we make anime noises like wee woo or whatever, I don't know. You know, it's not anything like that for the most part. For me, my tics are painful, they're embarrassing. Honestly, I've gone to the hospital because of my tics before because they're so excruciatingly painful. And the sad thing is, hospitals can't do anything about it. Like there's no medication, there's no quick fix to tic attacks. There's nothing that really can stop the tics from happening. And so there's really nothing you can do to prevent this pain and this agony, this discomfort. It's not fun. And I want to get the point out there that it is not fun. Ugh. I got rice. It's not something you should want, ever, because it's a neurological disorder. Like, it's a disability. Would you be like, oh my gosh, I would love to be in a wheelchair? I just don't think that's acceptable. And to people with Tourette's, like, I get offended when people are faking or wanting to have Tourette's as some kind of quirk or a personality trait, because it's something I've lived with as long as I can remember, and it is absolutely brutal. So I hope this makes sense. I hope you know that if you're watching this video, that you should never want Tourette syndrome because it is honestly my worst enemy. It feels like there's a monster inside my brain. Ugh. Hi! Ugh. So there you have it. Those are 5 things you should absolutely never say to people with Tourette syndrome because they're rude and offensive and like triggering and just not nice. As I said in the beginning of this video, there is such a stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, and I feel like a lot of people don't know how to appropriately approach people with Tourette's and talk about their tics in a meaningful manner. Honestly, I would love it if people just liked me for me and didn't have to be like, oh, like judging my tics all the time, because Tourette's is not everything that defines me. I know I have this channel on here dedicated to Tourette syndrome, but that's not my life. I'm not just Tourette syndrome. I'm so much more than just Tourette syndrome. I hope you learned something in this video and I hope you liked it. Ugh. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below saying hi, telling me what you want to see in future videos, or letting me know if you have any other things that you should never say to someone with Tourette syndrome, because I'm sure there's a way more than just these 5 things. I want to start a genuine conversation in the comments. I genuinely read every single one of your comments, and you are all so lovely and supportive, and I appreciate you all so much. You make me feel accepted in this big scary world, and it really means the world to me. Ugh. Please subscribe to this channel and ring my notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content. I post about Tourette syndrome awareness, neurodiversity, and some of my life stories of living with Tourette syndrome for over 10 years in hopes to break the stigma that surrounds Tourette syndrome. As always, we're learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. Thank you so much for watching and staying tuned, and I really appreciate all of you. I've reached over 9,000 subscribers in the past few weeks, and I am blown away by your support, and you guys are really helping me break the stigma. I can totally feel it, and I appreciate you more than words can say, so thank you so much. Bye!